A man once said, "If you want a good story, just ask any random person if there was ever an event in their life they cannot explain. Someone almost always has one weird thing that has happened to them. So, Reddit, regardless of whatever you believe about the world, what's your story?" When I was 21, a bunch of my friends and I did magic mushrooms together. While we were tripping balls, I had a very vivid hallucination. I was on a rocking chair, sitting opposite 3 of my friends. As I rocked back, I saw them as if they were in their late 50s, gray hair and wrinkly, and as I rocked forward, I'd see them normal and young in that moment again. I realized after a few times back and forth that I wasn't seeing the third guy when I rocked back, meaning to say I didn't see the old version of him. I went on for about half an hour from various positions in the chair, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it, and it weirded me out. Being weirded out on a mushroom trip isn't exactly a great feeling, so I obviously got a bit hysterical and passed out. I vaguely told the guys about it the next day, and quite obviously, we all laughed it off. 8 months later, the friend I didn't see in the back and forth vision died in a motorcycle accident. This still makes me super uncomfortable, 8 years later. When I was about 14 or 15, I was in my first class of the morning. I got a call from a private number and I answered it. It was my mom saying in a stern voice, "I said no," opens chips, "I mean no." I was really confused by this. I hadn't done anything wrong. I was trying to explain to her that I was in class, but she just kept speaking over the top of me. I gave my phone to my friend to show her, and she was confused too. It sounded exactly like my mom's voice, and she said my name. I texted my parents asking what I did wrong, and they say they had no idea what I was talking about. Later that day, I got off the school bus and started walking through my neighbor's field to get to my house when I got the same exact call as if it was a voice recording. My parents still say they have no idea what it was about. I asked my friend if she remembered the phone call to make sure I wasn't just imagining things, and she does. Me and a girl had just broken up recently, and I was still upset about it. I had a dream where me and her were back together, hanging out at a mall, and everything was great. Then a man in a gray suit and a gray top hat appeared and put his hand on my shoulder. He said something along the lines of, "This is wonderful, isn't it? You can have all of this. All you have to do is sleep forever." Of course, this freaked me the fuck out, and I started running as fast as I could away from this man, still dreaming but unable to wake up. As I was running, I called my best friend at the time, who had been helping me through the breakup. I couldn't hear him, but I was just yelling and crying about what was happening, still running in the dream. I woke up soon after in a cold sweat, breathing heavily like I had run a marathon. I called that friend later in the morning to tell him about this crazy, fucked up dream I had. First thing he says is he was about to call me because he had a dream that I called him last night, but he said he couldn't really hear anything except what sounded like wind, like you were running or something. I told him about the whole dream I had, and only way we explain it is our brains were also so in sync, like we always say the same things at the same time, and we vowed never to play rock, paper, scissors again because it went on for like 10 rounds without a winner. So even our dreams lined up somehow. The only part that messes with me is the man in the gray suit and top hat. I can still picture him 15 years later and wonder what would have happened if I accepted his invitation. I lost a stupid arcade prize coin purse in elementary school. It was black and yellow with obnoxious smiley faces all over it. Brought it to school with me all the time. I don't know why, because I had no money in it. Once I lost it, it just vanished. I don't remember when I realized I had lost it, but it was gone, and I could not shut up about it. My school, by now turned to rubble I assume, used to have a gym on the top floor of the attached second building. Strange, right? It went special need classes, library, and gym. This gym was always locked though, and people hadn't used it for gym class in years. Of course, because of its looming presence above us, the fact that it was an abandoned attic, and that no one would allow the kids to see inside it, we called it the haunted gym. I think my teacher used to visit the haunted gym as a reward for us at one time, because months after I'd lost my coin purse, we were allowed to walk through it as a class in a single file line. I'm up front behind the teacher, following closely behind, when I see ahead in the corner a small yellow and black smiley face. I ran over to it, picked it up, and yeah, that was my coin purse. Somehow it migrated to a locked and abandoned third-floor gym. Even my friend recognized it. Despite the teacher wanting to show us that it wasn't haunted, half the class left that day thinking there was no way it couldn't be haunted. It stole my purse. I'll never fucking understand it. When I was young, 6 to 8, not really sure, my parents had this apartment building they rent out near the house, and one of the tenants were a couple. The wife's parents were also our neighbors, and they lived a block away from us. I used to play with the wife's younger brother and would hang out at the couple's apartment to play. It was around the couple's son's birthday, and I think it was his first, because I remember they were making a big deal about it and talking about it for weeks. They were going to hold it at the wife's parents' house, which wasn't that far from home, so I asked my parents if I could go. I remember them directly saying no, and I guess in a joking/teasing kind of way, told me they were going to serve ducks instead of chicken. I hated ducks as a kid. I remember clearly being really bummed out about it for days. A few days after the party, I was hanging out at the apartment and they were gushing about the party, pictures that just got developed, film ones, and I was like, I wish I was there. Then the wife was like, what do you mean? You were. Look, here you are. And showed me the pictures and I was there. I'm sure I'm not remembering it wrong because it has been bothering me all this time. I remember asking my aunt if I went, and she even said no, but my friend, the younger brother, told me I was there, and we even played. I just don't remember attending that party at all. I actually asked my aunt about this recently, and she doesn't remember. It was just weird. This happened over 5 years ago now. My sister, 9 at the time, and I, 14 at the time, shared a room with our beds next to each other. Normally, our beds were 4 feet apart, but they ended up being directly next to each other one night, probably because at the time, she was constantly doing gymnastics on her bed, which would push the mattress. That night, I dreamt of a glass doll with long, dark hair. I remember feeling like I needed to protect it. I tried my best to keep it safe, promising it would be okay. But as I said these words, the doll's hair began falling out. I dropped the doll, and it shattered. With the help of doctors, the doll was glued back together and her hair grew back. When I woke up, I felt like crying. I didn't understand why I had that dream. I noticed my head had left my pillow at some point, and it was against my sister's head. When she finally woke up, she told me about her dream. It was the same. By this point, I was totally freaked out, but she didn't believe me when I told her. I guess she thought I was messing with her. 6 months later, my sister was diagnosed with cancer. She ended up losing all her hair and, like the dream, her hair grew back and she got better. She doesn't remember this happening, and I'm still just confused about it all. In a way, I'm thankful for the dream because I got to somewhat emotionally brace myself for what was to come. I don't really tell anyone about it because it doesn't seem real, and I'm pretty sure I'd sound crazy. LOL. Not me, my father, from his perspective. When I was young, probably 12 or 13, my family lived in a small residential suburb. There was a street lamp right across the street from us that would shine into our living room window at night. So every night before we went to bed, my father would draw the curtains. One night, I woke up around 2 a.m. and went to the kitchen to get some water. As I passed through the living room, I noticed the beam of light from the street lamp had made it through a small gap between the curtains, and I had the urge to peek through. Standing under the street lamp was a tall man with a black cap, silver skin, and massive eyes. Those huge bug eyes that you see in alien movies. He was standing there motionless, staring right at me. I quickly ducked down behind my father's recliner. There was no way he could have seen me. The house was completely dark, and I barely moved the curtains as I looked through. After a few minutes of sitting on the floor behind the recliner, I grew curious to see if the man had passed. I looked through the curtains again. Pressed firmly against the other side of the glass, inches away from my face, was the silver man with bug eyes staring right at me. After a moment, frozen in terror, I ran through the house toward my father's room and woke him up, quickly telling him what happened. He grabbed his shotgun and went outside to look around. He didn't find anyone, but there was a set of fresh footprints in the dew that had been collecting on the lawn. My father has recounted this story to me exactly twice, and even though it happened to him some 40 years ago, I could still see the goosebumps on his arms as he recalled the experience. My girlfriend had a black stone heart ring she'd wear when I met her, but it would occasionally somehow fall off despite being a tight fit, only to be found in odd places days later. Eventually she tied it on a leather strap and gave it to me to wear around my neck. It was a very tight fit over my head as it was a bit short. It was an effort to get it on or off, but we joked that at least I wouldn't lose it. One day, we were packing up the family holiday home we'd sold 2 hours from home, and while loading our furniture into the trailer, I must have snapped the tight strap and lost it. We only realized halfway home. Searched the trailer as we unloaded, but no sign. We'd sold the holiday house, so no one we knew could even go look for it, so we finally accepted this time it was lost for good. 2 years later, my dad was mowing the lawn on the ride-on at home, and he went to our paddock to empty it. He got off, emptied the clippings, but when he got back on and reached for the gear stick, something sharpish greeted his grip. The ring was sitting balanced on the top of the gear stick, the leather string wound down the gear lever, but still intact, not snapped. He was alone in the middle of the paddock. We have no idea how it got there. 2 years later, 150 kilometers from where it was lost. I asked my now wife where it came from originally. She found it in a kooky little pop-up shop of witchy type things. It was the only ring there, and was apparently it was the only second-hand item they had for sale. The kicker here, I put it in my wooden box of special items so we'd never lose it again. I went to get it to show someone a few years ago, and it wasn't there anymore.